site for Willow Bend Center. It was a 52-bed facility funded by the Texas Department of Family Services. And it's home to over 50 children, all wards of the state of Texas, all suffering from some of the worst cases of sexual abuse in the state. In connection with that project, he was featured in regional newsprint on CBS Evening News for creating over 40 jobs, giving back to the community, and serving for the greater good. Due to that work, and other commercial real estate projects in Texas, in 2012, he was flown to Los Angeles, where he appeared as a guest on the nationally broadcasted talk show, Grow with Edward Earl. Anybody know that one? Okay, that's pretty good. Now, that show features small business owners across America making a difference in the local economy and community for their respective areas. Now, with his success in commercial real estate investing, he was asked to join an elite group of commercial real estate experts from across the country. The group would meet in various locations 4 times a year to vet out new opportunities, discuss market trends and industry changes within the arena of commercial real estate development. In addition to that, Roger has also served as a guest speaker for other national platforms across the country where he is a published author. He's the owner and operator of Integrated Capital Asset Partners, LLC, a private real estate investment firm, as well as Security Associates, LLC, offering trust and trustee services, along with other various consulting and educational services. Oh, that's all. All right. So, if y'all would just put your hands together.
Thank you, brother. That's good stuff, my man. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Ketchum. Phenomenal son, wonderful husband, true technician, gadget guru, extraordinary. Thank you, son. So my wonderful ID department had added about 10 or 12 slides to the front end of this to customize it for this group. And I found out about these additional slides about an hour ago, so I've got a little cheat sheet to help me make it through the first few slides. But we're here tonight, guys, to talk about the science of the subject to, the power, privacy, and protection of the land trust. Before I get started, has anyone ever read this book, Think and Grow Rich? Wonderful, wonderful book. The book is by Napoleon Hill, published back in 1937. This book is known as a primary print. So a primary print in the publishing world basically means that any subject or topic after this book has been printed related to topics that this book has was more than likely derived from this book. So this is a primary print. It's been around for almost a century. Anybody ever seen the movie The Secret? Yep. The law of attraction is derived from this book. I've read this book about 5 times. The only book I've read more than this one is the Bible. I've read it 5 times. As a matter of fact, I've rewrote the entire book for my boys and for other people because it's 238 pages. It's 89,000 words. So I've rewritten the core of the book to about 23 pages and 8,900 words. It's easier to memorize 8,900 words than it is 89,000. Even though the topic of the book is Think and Grow Rich, the premise is more on focused thinking. Focused thinking is more what the premise of that is on. So in the book, there are 13 steps to riches, 13 steps to focused thinking. One of the steps is the power of the mastermind. And this is one thing I find cool. Listen to what the book says a mastermind is. The coordination of knowledge and organized effort are 2 or more people in the spirit of harmony toward a definite end or to achieve a common goal. Guys, the reason this group works so well, the reason Sabria works so well, is in effect, we are a mastermind. This is why we meet once a month, like-minded men and women, in the spirit of harmony, toward a common goal, all as real estate entrepreneurs. So when you look at this group as a mastermind, it really takes on a new meaning. And you're able to see that you can derive information. We can derive information from each other's knowledge and experience and wisdom. So I encourage you to keep coming back to these meetings. It's a phenomenal group. Thank you to the board for what you guys do, the hard work that y'all put in behind the scenes, organizing all of this. We're truly, truly grateful for you guys. So in the spirit of harmony, I'm going to present to you guys the science of the subject to and the use of land trust. So in order to best explain this process, we're on limited time tonight. I think we have the room till 8:30 or 9, so I've got limited time, limited information I can share. But be of good cheer. I have put a training session together April the 6th here in Shreveport. it will be to go through all of this thoroughly. So we'll talk about that more in just a minute. At that event, you can learn to earn through the SubjectTo. You can learn to earn through the lease to own. You can also learn how to protect your assets more securely through the trust, more than what we're going to be able to get to this evening. And that service on the 6th is kind of a fast-track service, one of the fast-track services that we offer. If that slide is kind of blurry, the guy's moving so fast, he's blurry, okay? So it's a fast-track service, guys, that we offer at a fraction of the price that I paid for the education. What took me years and literally tens of thousands of dollars to learn, you can learn in a day for less than $1,000. You'll leave that event with every detail in your head, every document in your hand to do exactly what I'm going to talk about we can do this evening. It's literally, guys, a business in a box delivered to you in a day. So keep that in mind as we go through this. If you think that event is something that is worth your time, and it's not a cost, it's worth the investment in yourself and in your business, we sure welcome you to that event. So the science of the SubjectTo, the power and privacy of the land trust. Who's ready to get started? Yes. All right. So questions, guys, feel free as we're going through this. If you have a question, raise your hand. It's almost impossible to memorize or write down questions, and then at the end you ask the questions about something we talked about on slide 3. So just lift your hand. If you have a quick question, we'll address it. If I think we're getting a little bit over, I'll just have to move on. But if you have questions in the process, guys, please feel free to lift your hands, and we will address them as we go. So the first thing I want to do, guys, is walk you through a SubjectTo transaction, okay? Because a SubjectTo is really made possible because of the land trust. And through the land trust, the SubjectTo is made legal and permissible. So we want to walk you through a SubjectTo because then the power, protection, and privacy of the trust is truly revealed when you see how it works in conjunction with a SubjectTo. Now the thing I like about SubjectTo, guys, matter of fact, the thing that I love about a SubjectTo is that houses are literally given to you for free. Now when I first heard this back in 2002, I said, no, there's no way that someone is going to give you a house. Why would someone give a house away? Unless you've been in their position, you can't think like they think. So we're going to talk about the whys, why that happens. Free houses, literally given to you. Matter of fact, since I began my career in 2002, I've had over 4 dozen properties given to me. As a matter of fact, 51 properties to be exact. In 16 years, I've had 51 properties deeded to me, zero cost assets. My average profit in 16 years on those properties is just under $32,000 a property. If you do the math, guys, that's $1.6 million just on the SubjectTo acquisition. Over 16 years, that's basically $100,000 a year in income on assets that were given to you. Who in here would like to add an additional $100,000 into their portfolio in income, net income, on properties that are free, literally given to you? It's a phenomenal acquisition strategy. Matter of fact, 80% of my business is SubjectTos. I learned really early in my career by Ron LeGrand how to become a transaction engineer, a transaction expert. There's great satisfaction in knowing no matter what type of deal the market brings you, you've got the knowledge, confidence, and competence to be able to structure a deal. Matter of fact, once you see what makes up a SubjectTo, a lot of you guys may be upset because you probably had SubjectTos come across your desk, you didn't recognize it, but when you leave here, you will. But when you become a transaction engineer, it doesn't matter if you do rentals, wholesale, short sale, retail, fix and flip, or SubjectTos. Learning to do the SubjectTos, if you have a desire to learn to do that, we will teach you everything that you need to learn on the SubjectTo. So become a transaction engineer, guys. You want to become well-versed in every type of deal that there is, become efficient and effective at putting these deals together. Number 1, recognize them. Number 2, putting them together. Gain the aptitude to do a multitude of acquisition methods and expand your business model. So I'm anxious to get started on this, guys. So, first of all, what is a SubTo? This is what a SubjectTo is. And I'm sorry if you guys are having a hard time. This is I'm left-handed, so I stand on this side. Okay, this is the only screen that has a bunch of words on it. I'm going to read it for us. A SubjectTo, sellers who simply deed away their property as an act to rid themselves of the source of stress they associate with the property. We take ownership through the deed, subject to the underlying debt which remains in the owner's name. Okay, I'm going to repeat it one more time. Subject to sellers who simply deed away their property as an act to rid themselves of the source of stress they associate with the property. We take ownership through the deed, subject to the existing debt which stays in the seller's name, stays in the owner's name. Okay, y'all with me on that? It'll become more and more clear as we advance through a few more slides. So why would someone do this? Why would someone literally just give their house away? These are, 7 scenarios that I've ran into thus far on the 51 that I've had deeded to me. Impending foreclosure, as was the case with Miss Kristen in Longview. Miss Kristen was several months behind, about $11,000 down in her mortgage. She had already moved out. A friend of a friend referred her to me. I took her house, even though she was $11,000 in arrearage. I had a buyer, a tenant buyer, that was in the rental pool because their credit wasn't quite good enough now to qualify for a loan, but they wanted to be a homeowner, not rent anymore. Well, they had $15,000 to put down. So I took their $15,000, I paid $11,000 in, got the loan current. They paid me $19.95 a month, a very beautiful home. I paid the $17.25 underlying debt, made $270 a month positive cash flow off of it, and maybe got a $20,000 back in. And we'll talk about the back end in a minute. So that's an impending foreclosure that was going on with Miss Kristen. Debt service was the case with Mr. Ham. This is over in Southern Hills. He was kind of borderline between debt service and making 2 house payments. I met him December of 2015. He was retiring from the KCS Railroad, and he was making his house payment and his girlfriend's house payment in Stonewall. And when he retired, he could no longer make 2 house payments. So it was an issue of debt service, and he was living with his girlfriend. They wanted the house in Stonewall. He did not know what to do with this one, so he deeded it to me. And I'm going to go into detail on one of these so you'll kind of see how it works. So that was an issue with debt service. Made $20,000 on that transaction. Making 2 house payments. This is actually our subject property. We're going to come back to it in a minute. Making 2 house payments, as was the case with Miss Christie in Southern Hills. This is the one we have up on the lease to own. Miss Christie's building a brand new house. She works for AEP, been with them 20-25 years, building a brand new house in Legacy Subdivision, North Bossier. Her concern was, Roger, if I sell too soon and my house is not finished, where do I go to? Where do I move to? If I don't sell soon enough and move into my new house, I've got to make my new house payment and this house payment. She had maybe $10,000 or $15,000 worth of equity in her home. And I explained the subject to what we could do to take the debt off her back. She said, that's all I need. It works perfectly for me. So she deeded me her home the day that she closed on her home, her new home that she built. So hers was an issue of making 2 house payments. Loss of job. As with the case with Mr. Bryan. Mr. Bryan was working for Schlumberger. And when the oil turn took it down, he lost his job. About a month later, he was able to find a better job in Odessa where he and his family live now, and they built a brand new house. But he was moving out of state. He didn't want to have to rent it and keep up with it and all that. So I told him what we could do as far as the lease to own. He had about $10,000 or $15,000 worth of equity. And guys, equity to these people is basically, well, equity to anybody is basically the difference between what you owe and what it'll sell for on the open market. It's just a number. You can't necessarily buy groceries with equity. So to some people, equity is not even real. It's just a number between what they owe and what the house is worth on the open market. So Brian deeded this house to me, trusted me that I would take care of it, continue making the payments while he moved on to his next job in Odessa. And job relocation, which was the case of Miss Ginger. This is a house over in Halton, beautiful home. Miss Ginger is a physical therapist. She had a brand new job waiting on her in Corpus Christi. She had about a month to get there. She didn't want to list. She didn't want to fix it. She didn't want people walking through her house. She had about $28,000 worth of equity. I explained the program, what we could do. She deeded the house to me, moved to Corpus Christi, and we owned the house and sold it on a lease to own. So those are some of the reasons that people will deed you their house. And I'm sure there are a number of other reasons. These are some of the ones that I've ran into. Benefits to the seller, immediate stress debt relief. Every one of these that I just talked about, this was an issue of stress for them. It immediately relieved their stress and their debt. In some cases, like Miss Kristen, I got her $11,000 in arrearage caught up. I continued to make her payment on time. Her credit started inching back up, so it saves their credit and allows them to move on with life. They've got this bad part behind them, whether it's divorce, loss of job, or whatever the case may be. It allows them to move on with life. So those are 3 of the benefits to the seller. So our subject property, Miss Christie over on McAdoo. 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, 1,100 square foot. Current value is $93,500 in that area. Again, hers was an issue of making 2 house payments. She's building a house in Bossier, didn't want to have to make 2 payments. So to her, it gave her immediate stress and debt relief from the second payment and allowed her to move on, excited about building her house, not worried about what happens if she can't sell hers or sell hers too soon. So I'm going to show you guys, I paid absolutely nothing for this home. She deeded it to me. There was maybe $25,000 or $30,000 worth of equity. Doesn't mean anything to her. She just is concerned about that payment. I mean, I'm not paying anything for it, and I'm going to make $49,000 on this house, guys, on a 3-year lease to own. Okay, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. And again, I averaged $32,000 per property and half for the last 16 years. So at the event, if you guys sign up to come to the event, I'm going to teach you the magic question to ask that will how you transform transactions from deals and those deals into dollars. Actually, I'm going to give it to you tonight. That's just a little teaser. I'm going to give you the magic question. Will you sell your home for me for what you owe on it? That will make you a lot of money. You'll be surprised at how many people, they just want to get up underneath the debt. The debt service is really what they want to get up underneath. Will you sell me your home for what you owe on it? Magic question. I was looking for some pictures of a closing table, like someone at a closing, and I ran across a funny, y'all just forgive my sense of humor. This is what happens when you retire. He lost his job. Since he lost his job, I try to keep him busy around the house. That poor guy holding up a table. I think it's pretty funny. This one's even better. My husband made this coffee table out of an old door. No duh. Still got the doorknobs and the hinges on it. Look how proud he looks. He's proud of that table he made. Look at that guy saying, what? That guy must be a rehabber, huh? Yeah, so if you need a use for an old door, make you a table out of it. Just take the hinges and doorknobs off of it. So that's about the best I could do on a closing table. So once we have met with the owner and talked about the subject to, what we can do, what we can't do, the benefits, the risk involved, and things like that, we have a closing at a title company. And there's a lot of communication that takes place, a lot of documentation that takes place between now and then. But we have a closing at a title company or a professional services, and we let the professionals do what they do, guys. Everything we do is filed and recorded at the public courthouse. We want to protect ourselves, we want to protect our sellers, we want to protect our buyers, and any investment capital. So everything we let the professionals do what they do. So once we go to the table and we receive the deed, basically they're going to deed us the house, and we're going to walk through that as well. So we receive the deed, guys. Now, we own the property through the deed, so we own the property just as if we paid cash for it, okay? However, the debt is still attached to the house. That debt that the bank owns still encumbers that property. The debt stays in the previous owner's name. Y'all with me on that? We own the deed, we own the house, the bank owns the debt. The debt still has to be serviced or the bank will foreclose. So whenever we take over that debt, that underlying debt, it actually has terms. Obviously her loan has terms. Her loan is $862 a month. It was a 15-year term. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I've got built-in terms. I've got another 9.5 years at $862 that I can offer my tenant buyer. That's why I can do a 1, 2, or 3 year lease to own, because I've got built-in terms based on the underlying debt. Does that make sense to everybody? The underlying debt, whatever the terms are of the underlying debt, we take that on. So now we've bought on terms and we can sell on terms. Versus if I do a rehab, typically if I do a rehab, and I've done a lot of rehabs, all my rehabs are funded with private money. I pay my investors a very nice rate of return, but I usually have that money for 6 to 9 months. In other words, I've got 6 to 9 months to buy the home, rehab it, market, sold, and close, and get the money back to the investor. So if I buy for cash, I have to sell for cash. If I buy on terms, I can sell on terms. So my rehabs, I can't do a lease to own because I've got an investor I got to pay back a lump sum of cash to. But any subject to that I take over debt, I've now got debt in terms that I can pass on to my lease to own buyer. These are basically the terms of Christy's loan. Loan balance $64,000. It's worth $93,000, $30,000, $29,000 worth of equity. She didn't want a dime of it. She's already got approved for her other loan. She just wants to move to her other house and keep going. Now her payment is $862. So there's not a lot of upside on the monthly payment, because that area I'm gonna get about $895 for that house. So I'll make a whopping $30 a month. Nothing to get too excited about. But the good thing about the 15-year term is each month the tenant makes me a payment. Man, it's knocking down that balance. Matter of fact, she is 5.5 years into that 15-year term already. So she's really rolling this thing over. Each time a payment is made, we're knocking down principal big time. Matter of fact, in another 3 years, that 64 will be down to about 30 or so, because the 15-year term just pays off much, much quicker. It's killing me on cash flow, but I'm okay with that because my back end's bigger. Everybody follow me? Guys, any questions, please stop me. I talk fast because I love it. When I love something and get emotional about it, I talk fast. And guys, if you've done only one deal, you know how exciting real estate is. It will literally take control of your emotions. Is that right, Brianna? It will literally take control of your emotions. 3.625%, 15-year mortgage, 5.5 years into it. Again, we sell the way we buy. If I buy for cash on a rehab, I gotta pay cash back. If I buy on terms, I can now sell on terms. Make sense? And the terms I'm getting are whatever the terms of the underlying debt that stays in the seller's name. Is everybody with me on that? Okay. Yes, sir.
So if you buy that, if you have the house deeded to you,
Yes, sir.
then that equity is, say, a $30,000 equity in there. That's yours, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so now if you did 2 or 3 of those, then you may have, say, $100,000 worth of equity built up. Can you use that as a line of credit?
Absolutely. Absolutely, you can. And the trust is a great vehicle for using that. You can actually pledge that equity as an asset collateral to the bank, and we're going to talk about that, how to use the trust to do that very thing. So we sell the way we buy. Buy cash, sell for cash, buy on terms, sell on terms. Now, the sales price. I'm not going to sell a house in 1, 2, or 3 years what it's worth today. I'm going to sell a house in 1, 2, or 3 years what I think it will be worth in 1, 2, or 3 years. So this is my very conservative markup on my houses that I sell. Brianna, who's going to give us the testimony in a second, they just did a deal. House is worth $115. Y'all sold it for $120. So just a conservative markup. But this is how that markup works, guys. This is one of the ways we build value and build profit into our pocketbook. So our lease to own program. Year 1, I add 3.5% to the house. So if my tenant buyer decides they want a 1-year lease to own program, and we're going to talk about why they would choose 1, 2, and 3 years in just a moment, they're going to buy that house for $96,750, 3.5% markup. Okay. So I've just created $3,700 worth of free cash for me. Year 2, I'm going to mark it up another 2%. Year 3, another 2%. Most of my buyers like the 3-year lease to own. Now, the reason we give them 1, 2, or 3 year options is because they don't have the credit now to buy, and we're okay with that. Our product, our lease to own product, is designed for people that don't have the credit now to buy. So we put them in touch with a mortgage broker, not because we want the mortgage broker to confirm, hey, you don't have the credit. Now, we know that. We want to know what the hurdles are they need to overcome so that in 1, 2, or 3 years, they can qualify for traditional financing. And between myself, the mortgage broker, and the tenant buyer, we put a program together that they actively pursue so that they can qualify for that. So that's what it's based on. How long will it take them to be able to qualify for a loan? Yes, sir.
So whenever you're partnering up with a mortgage broker, is there one particular in this area that you prefer to send people to that you know will follow up with them over the course of the 3 years to make sure that they're there for that finish line?
Yeah. So Lee's question was, is there a particular mortgage broker that we work with that will, first of all, vet these people out on the front end and follow up with them to make sure they're doing what they're doing? Most mortgage brokers, when they engage someone in business, they're looking for business 30, 45, 60 days down the road when the deal closes. Most of them are more than happy to invest a little bit of time on the front end and gain a valuable client. So they will take them in, they'll look at their credit, they'll put a plan together, and then it's my job. If I want my buyer to qualify eventually and I get my big back end check, it's more my job to follow up with my buyer to make sure that they're doing what they need to be doing in order to qualify. So not necessarily the mortgage broker, but that's kind of what I do. Because we want them to get qualified for their benefit to be a homeowner and for our benefit to get cashed out of the home, which is where our bigger back end check comes from. So these families, man, they're happy homeowners. I mean, they're either been in the rental pool all their life or have been forced back in the rental pool because of a loss of job or whatever. So they are tickled to death at the opportunity that we give them to become homeowners again. They will gladly pay you more for the house, 3.5%, 2%, 2%. They'll gladly give you a better down payment because 100% of that goes toward the purchase price, and they'll gladly make that on-time payment because they know 15% of that is going toward the purchase price. So you get more for the house, more down, more per month because it's their home. They're excited to be a homeowner again. You're giving them an opportunity that banks and other lenders aren't giving them, and they could quite possibly be stuck in the rental pool for a long time, if not for the rest of their life, if not for a similar type program. So this deal is going to vet out. I'll get about $4,500 down, and I usually get 3 to 5%. And if I want $4,500, the buyer's only got $3,000. If I let you in the house for $3,000, how can you pay me the other $1,500? Can you do an extra $500 for 3 months? You know, customize it. It's completely up to you. I mean, you're the bank. You make the rules. Year 1, the lease will be $895. Incrementally, it's going to go up 5% to $940, 5% to $985. Written in the lease, automatically every year. We ain't got to haggle over it. So my average over these 3, say my average payment is $940 minus $860. I'm only making $80 a month for 36 months. What's that? $7,200, something like that, if the math is even right. $4,500 up front, $80 a month. Not very sexy at all, but that's okay because my back end is $42,000. So in 3 years, they're still going to owe me 90-ish. They'll have, with their money, they're going to have my seller's debt paid down to 30, and I get to collect everything in the middle. I get to collect the $40,000 on the back end. Yes, sir.
Is this like an option where they have to be responsible for their repairs and so forth?
Yes, sir. We're going to talk about that very thing. Great question. Yes, ma'am.
How often does it go like as planned?
Okay. The question is, how often does it go as planned? Not always. But I have been so fortunate. In my 16 years, I've had 3 tenant buyers not stick around and do what they say they're going to do. 2 of them was on one house, and it was a double wide in Greenwood, Louisiana. And the reason I took that double wide in inventory, number 1, she gave it to me. Number 1, it was less than 5 years old, and number 2, it sat on an FHA slab. So it was less than 5 years old. I only had 5 acres, sat on an FHA slab. Really nice home. My first buyer came in there and gave me $6,000 down. Lived there for about 8 months. Divorced. Second buyer came in there, gave me $4,000 down. Lived there for a couple of months. I went to collect the rent because I have to do that sometimes, go collect rent. That's why I like what you guys have to say every week. I'm learning from y'all. They weren't there. To this day, I have no idea where they were. The next buyer came in and gave me $8,000 down, and he only needed 6 months to qualify. In 18 months, guys, I made $18,000 just on down payments. And the great thing about it, every one of them left the house in good condition, primarily because, guys, we maintain a relationship with them. Hey, we love our buyers. Our buyers love us. It's a symbiotic relationship, and we love that. It's just a good program. Like Ms. Delores says, stay in contact with them. Treat them with respect and with dignity, but you have to be firm. I'm not firm. I'm way too compassionate. If someone says their grandmother died and she had died last month and the month before, I'm going to believe it. I'm so gullible. And so before you know it, I'm 3 months down and I have probably not much hope of getting month number 4. So that's why I like the trust, because the trust gives me an iron fist that I typically don't have due to my personality. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Benefits to the buyer. They get to enjoy the use of the home while they qualify to buy it. That's huge. Instead of having to wait, rent until their credit gets good, they're living in the house, they're enjoying the use of it, they're fixing it up, they're painting it, whatever they want to do to it, the way they like it. Money's paid goes toward the purchase price, 100% of the down payment, 15% of the mortgage payment. It's just like a mortgage. Goes toward the principal. We help them rebuild their credit through the mortgage broker and through me following up with them, making sure they're overcoming the hurdles. And then we'll offer 1, 2, or 3 year terms. Sometimes we'll extend that depending on our buyer. Yes, ma'am.
You say 15% of their monthly payment goes towards their mortgage?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means that $80 isn't really there.
Yes, it is. It is. Okay. The question is, if I give them 15% credit toward the mortgage, that means the $80 income really isn't there. It is there, and this is why, Miss Heidi, because they get credit. Let's say they're paying $1,000 a month for 36 months. That's $36,000 they paid in. 15% of $36,000, whatever that is, $5,000, $5,072 on this property to be exact. That comes off the purchase price. So instead of them owing me $93 minus $5, they'll owe me $88. So it decreases their purchase price. I still enjoy the $80 a month positive cash flow. It just comes off the back end of what they owe. Does that make sense? Okay. So the monthly cash flow income is still there. Acquisition cost. If I haven't mentioned this, guys, our acquisition costs on these assets, a big fat goose egg. We do not buy these houses. They are literally given to us. Now, there are closing costs involved, obviously. We have a title search, typically, title search, title insurance, deed document prep, attorney closing agent fees, filing fees, $1,500 or whatever it costs for a traditional closing. Obviously, these are not traditional acquisitions, so there's not a traditional closing. If you hire my company to do your trust and or service trustee, you can get it done for about half of that. And if you come to the event and learn how to do this yourself, guys, which you can, is less than half of that. So I pay about $350 for a closing on my assets. It's given to me, I've got $350 in it, I'm making 32 grand. That's a pretty good return on my investment. A really good return on my investment. Yes, sir.
Just to be clear, the way that you worded that, so is there an option for if somebody just calls me up today and says, hey Lee, look, I've got a house, I'm wanting to just end up walking away from it. And I say, well, before you do that, can I call you and on a one-off situation where I might not experience that every day?
Yes, sir.
To where you actually have a service to where you can prepare that and help coordinate even one-offs?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Matter of fact, Brianna in the back, I'll mention her name. I'm trying to get her nerves down so she can give a testimony in a minute. But yeah, so if you run into a deal like this, guys, and you think it may be a subject to, you're more than welcome to call our service, call our company, engage our services on a one-off type situation, and we can partner up on that deal, as in we'll take an equity cut or you just pay us a fee and we'll come in and do what we do. Absolutely. Now, the risk involved, guys, there is risk for us, okay? There's risk for the people giving us the house. The risk for the people giving us the house is, Roger, I just met you 5 minutes ago. How do I know you're going to make my payment? That's a pretty strong question, because if I don't make their payment, it affects their credit. Okay, fair question. I'll say, I understand your concern, so we can do one of two things. I can make the payment to you. You can make it to the bank. Would that make you feel better? Number two, I can make it at the bank, send you a copy of the receipt, letting you know I made it. Or if you have online access, give me that. I'll pay it online. You can go online the day after I'm supposed to make it and make sure it's been paid. Whatever option makes you feel more comfortable, we're more than happy to do that. And so that usually satisfies and pacifies that concern. Then I turn it around on them and I say, look, if I make the payment to you, how do I know you're going to make it to the bank? I understand it affects your credit, but now if you don't make it, it affects my asset, because I now own the home. So it helps them to realize that we're in this thing together. And then once you give them that scenario, the question usually goes away. But guys, I'm telling you, we have to protect our business. There are so many people out there that do things the wrong way, and a lot of what we're trying to do is being legislated out so that we're not able to do. So we just got to do things the right way. We do not bind ourselves legally to make that payment, but even more so, more strongly, we bind ourselves morally and ethically to make that payment. So no matter what, guys, you got to make that payment. You got to take care of that seller because you told them you would, number one. Two, it's the right thing to do. And number three, it protects your asset. So never make a decision based on how much money it's going to cost you. Make a decision on what's the right thing to do. And let that be your guide, and you'll always do well. So the risk, guys, is you'll have a house payment. Typically, I negotiate with my sellers, hey, you're living in the house now, so next month's payment is yours anyway, because mortgages are paid in arrears, rents are paid in advance. So the next month, April 1st, payment is yours anyway. If you make one or two more payments, I'll take it over from there. You never have to worry about it again. So I usually buy 75, 90 days before I even have to make a payment. If they're not in a position to do that, they're just not in a position to do that. You make a decision if you want to take that payment on sooner. The house goes vacant, you got to make the payment. But just like Dave Ramsey teaches in Financial Peace University, just put you a reserve fund aside to make that payment, okay? Don't touch it, so you're always covered. So that's the risk involved, guys. We have to make the payment. Disadvantages of a subject to, they have a term lifespan, 1, 2, or 3 years. They term out, our buyers buy, we get our 25, 30 grand, and now we no longer have that asset. So they term out, they have a term on them. So in other words, you have to keep doing deals, okay? Keep doing deals. So a long-term income strategy, it is really not, unless a sub-2 can be placed into your rental portfolio, as long as you negotiate on the front end. I've got one or two sellers that definitely wanted their mortgage paid off within a certain amount of time. They want 1, 2, or 3 years. The quickest I'll do is 5. Okay, so all the rest of them, they don't care if I ever get it paid off, because each time I make a payment, it's helping their credit. And these people can still go out and get another mortgage. If they've got good credit, you can have as many as 10 mortgages in your name, 4 with one lender, a primary residence and 9 investment properties. Then you can start an LLC and repeat the process over again. So sub-2s can be placed into your rental portfolio. It's either a long-term or short-term strategy. So zero cost assets into your rental portfolio is attractive to you. The subject-to is for you. Advantages of the subject-to. No cash down payment. Typically on investment property, the bank wants to see you put 20% down, 20% into the game. So no cash out of pocket. No debt. You're not personally guaranteeing debt. You're not dragging debt around behind you anymore. The debt stays in the seller's name, which allows you to manage your credit because you're not tying up your personal credit. You haven't signed for anything. It's still in the seller's name. It allows you to manage your credit, leverage your credit for other things that you might want to do. No landlord-tenant responsibilities because the buyer maintains the property. Mr. and Miss Buyer, congratulations, you're a homeowner in training. I'll guarantee the systems for 30 days. Anything beyond that is on you. When I bought my house from the bank and my water heater leaks or my toilet explodes, I can't call the bank and say, hey, come fix this. That's my house. That's the privilege of being a homeowner. Congratulations, you're now homeowners. That's the privilege of being a homeowner. So my management consists of receiving a check, paying the underlying debt, and enjoying the surplus monthly. Biggest benefits of a subject-to: multiple streams of income, down payment, monthly spread, back in. Multiple streams of income. That is a wonderful phrase to have in your vocabulary. Big bundles of cash on the back end. Most of my properties, when they pay out, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 on the back end as my buyer gets qualified and cashes me out and pays me. We pay off the underlying debt and the trust keeps what's left over. Large profits per transaction. I'm averaging $32,000 per transaction right now on these transactions. And so basically, guys, we're just priming the pipeline. If I had an empty paper towel tube and I had it's full of, say, 8 ping pong balls, and I put a new property in, one's going to pop out this end. So let's say next month I've got one that's closing that's going to make me 35 grand on the back end. 2 months later, one will pop out, make me 10. 3 months later, 2 will pop out, 1 for 20, 1 for 25. You're just priming the pipeline. As these 1, 2, and 3 year lease to own start closing, man, you got 10, 15, 20, 25 grand a month popping out on these things. That'll change your life. That's nice. Priming the pipeline with each deal that you do. You know, it's easy to spot an ugly house because they're ugly. You're driving through the neighborhood, oh, that's an ugly house. I think I'll see if I can rehab it. But it's hard to spot these. These properties are not physically distressed, they're financially distressed. But the cool thing about it is, for every ugly house I do 4 pretty houses, or lease to owns, or subject twos. So for every 2 renovations I do, I'll do 8. There are so many more of these deals out there than there are ugly houses. You just can't tell it from the curb. You have to market. Your marketing that you're doing now, the leads that you have coming in now, I bet you've got subject to sitting on your desk that you don't even realize because you don't know what to look for. But again, we'll teach you every single detail. I mean, every word of what you need. Matter of fact, let me do this right quick. At the event, guys, we have a very professionally prepared manual that we go through. It's 67, 68 pages. 9 of the pages is what we teach. The other 59 are documents that we need. So when y'all can just kind of take a look at this and pass it down if you don't mind. Just thumb through it. So we will teach you everything. I mean, every word that you need to say to your seller, every word you need to say to your buyer is scripted out. And then you can customize it based on your personality. Again, $1.6 million in 16 years on 51 deals. Man, that's a lot of money. I didn't realize it was that much till I put this thing together. It's average $100,000 a year the last 16 years on properties that are literally given to you. So the science of a subject-to transaction made possible by the power protection of the land trust. First of all, any questions about, and I know we got through it quick, guys, and I'm sorry, it's a lot of information. Any questions about the subject-to acquisition, the lease to own disposition? Yes, sir.
I would have thought that the owner's mortgage would have prevented the transfer of the title of the property and let mortgage set aside.
Yes, sir. It does. Every mortgage, FA after December of 1988, VA after February of 1989, every mortgage now has a due on sale clause. Back before these dates, if someone wanted to give me their house, I basically fill out a piece of paper, name, address, phone number, send it to the bank. It's a non-qualifying assumption. The bank moves the loan into my name and I can start making the payments. There are no more non-qualifying assumptions. There are assumable loans, but you got to go through all the red tape as if you were getting a normal mortgage. But the trust, using the trust, the seller's not in violation of the due on sale clause. That's another reason that LandTrust is phenomenal, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. Okay? Yes, sir, Mr. Lamb.
I understand the mechanics of the transaction, but where does the term subject to transaction, what is subject to what?
Okay. Yeah, so as we showed earlier, subject to basically is when a seller deeds you their property subject to the underlying debt. So they deed me their property with me knowing that there's still underlying debt in place that I've got to service if I take that deed. So subject to the underlying debt with their current mortgage, okay? Land trust, guys. A land trust is simply a vehicle for holding title to real property. That's it. Do not be intimidated by the word trust. Guys, you saw one of the slides whenever Lee first came to introduce me. I grew up in Sunset Acres. Who knows where Sunset Acres is? I grew up in Sunset Acres. Man, I went to Woodlawn High School. If I can do this, goodness gracious, anybody can do this. If you don't think you can, I can teach you in a day how to do every bit of this. Vehicle for holding title to real property. Well, a land trust is not. It's not a living trust. It's not a Massachusetts business trust like most attorneys learn about in law school and have become very proficient at. Matter of fact, there's only been one attorney in my career that knew a land trust, and she knew it very well, and I was tickled to death. Every other attorney, whether it's attorney on my payroll, attorney representing a seller or representing a buyer, we've had to educate them on the land trust. So they don't teach the land trust in law school. It's not a living trust. It's not a Massachusetts business trust. It's simply a vehicle for holding title to real property. It is usable in all 50 states, something you can absolutely create yourself. Because I'm going to give you a Word document. You just fill in the address, the trustee, and a few things, and you've got a trust. You go file it at the courthouse. It is literally that simple. Most importantly, Miss Heidi, forgive me for this. She's our resident expert attorney.
You don't need one.
You do not need an attorney to establish a trust, but they want you to think they do because they want you to write them a check. And then every time you have a question, every time you need to move something around in the trust, you got to write them another check. Guys, you do not need an attorney. I write all of my own land trust. Don't I, Bree? Bree and I just created one last week. So most importantly, no attorney fees. Ongoing attorney fees. You learn it one time, you can use it for the rest of your life. Biggest benefits of a land trust, it gives you a veil of protection against the due on sale clause. Here's the answer to your question. In 1982, two senators introduced a bill. Is it a bill to start with and becomes a law? Introduced a bill. The Garn St. Germain Depository Institutions Act of 1982. Now what that act did, it gives homeowners the right to put their property into a trust for estate planning or asset protection without violating the due on sale clause. This is exactly how the law reads. I don't think I have a copy of it here, but there's a copy of it in the manual going around. The Garn St. Germain Depository Institutions Act of 1982 allows you to put your property into a trust without violating the due on sale clause. That's another reason why we like to use the trust. It gives us a veil of protection against the due on sale clause. And again, the seller hasn't broken the law. They've just violated a clause in their mortgage. It's a pretty important clause because what it does, it gives the bank the right to call the whole loan due. Not the obligation, but the right to call it due. Banks have so many problems with loans in default. They're not looking for a reason to put a loan in default, especially one that we bring current and keep current. Banks do not like owning real estate. That's a bad thing. Banks like owning loans, performing loans. A bank is not going to put a property into foreclosure just because it transferred, even if they found out. But what they find out from us is that the seller just put it into a trust. So it's not even an issue. Garn St. Germain Depository Institutions Act of 1982. Go over this law in detail at the class that we're putting on April the 6th. Privacy. It gives you privacy, guys, because the assets you own are not a matter of public record. If someone wants to sue you, they're probably going to want to see what you own and see if you're worth taking down. So if I have an issue on one of my properties and the tenant wants to sue me, they're going to go engage an attorney, and the attorney's thinking, okay, well, either my plaintiff is going to write me a check or let's see who we're going to sue. If they've got some assets they're worth going after, don't worry about writing me a check. I'll get paid whenever we collect from this guy. You're not going to find my name anywhere on public record. I don't own anything. I do not have a target on my back. I can't tell you how stress-free living, I can't tell you how stress-free that is. I don't own anything in my own name. Therefore, you own nothing in your name or in the name of your company, so you've got asset protection. So when that plaintiff walks in, the attorney's going to say, well, who is this guy? He doesn't own anything. I don't know who he is. If we win, what are we really going to win? So not knowing who's going to pay me, Mr. Plaintiff, write me a $3,500 check on the way out and I'll take on your case. Yes, ma'am.
So will this prevent your information being short on the tax assessor side of this one?
I'm sorry?
The tax assessor, like you go online and look up property?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It'll be listed on the tax assessor site, the name of the trust. Usually so-and-so as trustee, so-and-so trust, or so-and-so trust, so-and-so as trustee. Yep. But I don't own anything. I like it. I don't even own my personal vehicle. I have a personal property trust. So I don't have nothing worth coming after. Yes, sir, Chris.
So, even though you don't own it, they can't, even if they know that that trust is yours, they still can't sue you?
Well, they don't necessarily know that the trust is mine, because to my tenant buyer, I may just be the property manager, or I may just be the director of the trust. And they may think the trust is owned by this big corporation, whatever they want to think. So they don't necessarily, I don't go out and say, hey, this is in a trust, I own the trust. I don't publicize that knowledge. Just try to keep it very low key. Land trust versus single asset LLC. Mr. Randy, this is one of your things you're interested in. One thing you can do, guys, every time you buy a property, you can create an LLC and put your property into the LLC. That's a single asset LLC, okay? The only problem with that, hey Chevy, good to see you, brother. The only problem with that, guys, is, well, first of all, the asset protection of the land trust serves the same purpose. It gives you asset protection without the associated cost of an LLC. Every time you open up an LLC, guys, you got cost to create, attorney's fees unless you do it yourself, cost to file, Secretary of State, and cost to maintain a tax return. So you got associated costs with each LLC. That's if you're putting one asset into one LLC, a single asset LLC. It will give you some protection. The LLC will. But the reason I like the land trust over a single asset LLC, not just the cost and the hassle factor of creating one, but the LLC provides no privacy, because your company is now going to be on public record as the owner. And it's easy to look up a company and see who owns it. So they can still find out who owns it and pursue you that way. The land trust, it's not in your name, it's just a trust. Who knows who owns it? And the LLC provides no protection against a due on sale clause, because you did not put the property into a trust. You moved it from the seller's name straight into your LLC. They're in violation of the due on sale clause. So the land trust is a much more viable option than the single asset LLC. It's way better. Now, every land trust I own, my LLC may be the beneficiary of the land trust, but it's not a matter of public record. Basically, guys, with the land trust, you're creating a funnel. You're going to be at the bottom of the funnel receiving the income at some point. It's just how many layers of protection you want to put in place. And guys, you can do it yourself. It's the easiest thing to learn. You can learn it in a day. In addition to all that anonymity, that's a pretty big word for a Woodlawn guy. In addition to the anonymity, the land trust also provides the element of mobility. This is answering one of your questions. So, you can sell. If I have a trust and Miss Heidi wants to buy it, she can buy my trust through one document. I assign her the beneficial interest of the trust. The trust still owns the property on public record. I'm no longer the beneficiary. Miss Heidi's now the beneficiary. Nothing's changed on public record. One document, quick claim assignment of beneficial interest in trust. I sign it over to her. She gives me a check. She now owns the property, or her company. So you can sell it. You can trade it. You can pledge it as collateral. You can bequest it as through a will. You can avoid probate, which we did for my mother-in-law. Put it into a trust several years ago. She passed away. No probate, no succession. The proceeds went straight to the beneficiaries, which were the children. Avoid probate or otherwise transfer with a one-page document, quick claim and assignment of beneficial interest in trust. So if you want to pledge your asset as collateral, you just sign the beneficial interest over to a bank. Now I'll caution you about this. A lot of banks don't know what a land trust is. Before they'll loan on the equity of that home, you may have to take it out of a land trust, borrow money, put it back into a land trust. Simple. But the banks that will recognize the trust as the owner, based on the documents you give them, you can use it as collateral, pledge it as collateral through that one-page collateral assignment. And again, the assignment can be made to anyone at any time at no cost. Ms. Heidi gives me a check, I sign my name at the bottom of it. You don't need an attorney to do it. No attorney fees.
How does that work as far as like when you go to file your taxes and she goes to file her taxes? I mean, where do you show that income came from? Where does she show that hers went?
Okay, the question has to do with taxes, income on the property. I mean, if you're making income off the property, you have to file it on your taxes. And my CPA is not here. I usually like him here when I speak to answer a question like that, because I'm not a CPA, not an attorney. So everything I tell you guys, please check it and verify it yourself. I'm just telling you based on my experience. But is it a Schedule C or Schedule D? Schedule C, you list your properties on your Schedule C. So it is your income taxes, but your income taxes is not a matter of public record. If someone wants your income taxes, they have to subpoena them, and the judge has to sign off on them, which someone's got to write a check to make that happen. So yeah, it is.
Find that it's just gonna cost
It's going to cost them, yeah. That's why we call it a veil of protection. Yes, ma'am.
Can you put a bank account in a trust?
Most attorneys, if I'm not mistaken, their bank account is a trust account. Is that correct, Ms. Heidi, or do you know?
Well,
It's a different type of?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, I mean, it's probably going to be an institutional question that you would ask your bank, but you want to know if you can put a land trust?
If you could, then that could go, it wouldn't have to go into probate,
Well, what wouldn't have to go into probate?
the checking account money.
Well, I mean, checking account money is,
it can't be an asset in a trust, but it can't be the trustee of the trust.
so does that answer your question? Her question was, can you put a bank account into a trust? And I think the answer is no. And then Ms. Heidi added
It
that,
can be an asset of the trust.
yeah, the bank account can be an asset of the trust, but it can't be the trustee. And we're going to talk about trustees in just a second as well. So the three critical components of a trust, guys, is this. This is what makes it so easy and so teachable. The trustee. The qualification of your trustee, simply someone you trust. That's what a trustee is. That's who a trustee is. Ideally, it will be a company, but it can be an individual to serve as trustee as well. Guys, one of the services we offer, we will serve as trustee on your trust. There's no better trustee than that knows the trust and the laws and the effects of it as well as we do. And it's terribly inexpensive to hire us as trustee. Surety Associates will create your trust. Sir? Yes, sir. Hey, guys, you're all welcome to take screenshots of the screens. Because one of the benefits of what we do when we teach people, we're helping them, as Ms. Bree's going to testify to in a minute. That's just one of the rewards that we get, all of us get. Surety Associates, we will create your trust, we'll organize your closings, facilitate your closings, we'll serve as trustee, we'll do speaking events, a number of things that Surety Associates LLC can do for you guys. Trustees,
Trustee?
You cannot be your own trustee unless, so if your trustee and your company is the beneficiary, okay, those are two separate parties, but it's really not arm's length transaction. So a trust is really party A engaging with party B for the benefit of party C. So if A and C are somewhat related, they could probably pierce that trust and you may lose. Yes, sir.
Just with his question, as far as when it comes to, you talk about the assignment itself. So if you create a trust and someone is a trustee, can they now assign their interest without your consent?
Yes, sir. The trustee has a lot of powers, guys. Chevy's question was, can the trustee go rogue on you and do whatever he wants to do? Absolutely. That's why you want to have someone that you trust. Now, the trustee has a fiduciary relationship to you. They better do what you tell them and better not do what you don't tell them to do. Otherwise, they're in serious violation. So, but your trustee can absolutely go rogue, but he's not supposed to do anything without your direction. That's another reason it may be good to hire professional service, and we're tickled to death to work with you on that. Critical component number two, beneficiary. The beneficiary is the owner of the trust. The trust owns a property, the beneficiary owns a trust. It's not a matter of public record, it's filed in your file cabinet for your private keeping. Property proceeds flow to and through the trust to the beneficiary. Beneficiary can be you, your company, another trust, whomever you choose. You can make the beneficiary your children. If you have 3 children, the next 3 houses you buy, put them into a trust and give each one of them to your children by naming them as a beneficiary. And component number 4, the trust asset, which is the physical property. Once an asset is deeded into the trust at closing, once they sign that deed and put that asset into a trust, the trust is now active. Living, breathing organism. Once a deed is accepted into the trust. We'll talk about deed in just a second. The 3 defining documents of the land trust, the deed. Transferring the deed into the trust. I've had different title companies. I always have a title company prepare my deed, by the way, until we got smart and learned how to prepare them ourselves by just duplicating what they do. But we've had attorneys create a deed into land trust. We've had attorneys create transfer deeds. We've had attorneys create cash sale deeds. My personal favorite nowadays is the transfer deed, because the seller is basically under the Garn-St. Germain Act putting the property into a trust. They're transferring it from their name into a trust. So it's a transfer deed. I like the language of a transfer deed, so that's what we use now. It's another service that we provide for you guys if you want us to create your trusts for you. Second defining document, the Declaration of Trust. This is basically the body of the trust, the land trust agreement. It basically details the details of the trust. This is where people get a little bit intimidated. It's 6 pages, guys. It's nothing to it. 16 indentures, 16 paragraphs, basically saying what the trustee can and cannot do. A signature page and a legal description. And that's it. That's the trust. Nothing to it, guys. You can learn it. And number 3, affidavit of trust. This is the only recorded instrument. The only thing we file on public record is an affidavit of trust. This is what an affidavit of trust is. It serves to let the public know a trust now exists. That's it. So now there's a trust out there, and it gives the details of the trust. It gives the name of the trust on the affidavit. It gives the date the trust was established. It gives the trustee's name, whether it's surety associates or whomever. It gives the address of the trust in case people need to send correspondence to the trustee. And Exhibit A, which is the deed, is attached to the affidavit. And Exhibit B, which is the legal description. It's usually, our affidavits are 5 pages in length, specifically because Caddo Parish, 1 to 5 pages, $105 to file it. Any 6 to 25 pages, $205. So we make ours 5 pages, saves you on filing fees. That's the only thing we file. That's what's on the affidavit of trust. Those 3 things. Now the public knows that a trust exists, and knows the property associated with the trust, and that's okay. What is not filed is the beneficiary. The beneficiary is not a matter of public record. That's what gives us the privacy and the asset protection. So, summary benefits of a land trust. Sole purpose to hold title to real property. Legal and permissible in all 50 states. Something you can create yourself. Provides a veil of protection to avoid the due on sale clause. Privacy, your portfolio is not a matter of public record. Asset protection, you own nothing in your own name. Strength of a single asset LLC without the cost and many other benefits that we talked about. Gives you anonymity and mobility. 0 cost transfers. I can assign that beneficial interest to whomever I want to at no charge. Ease of creation that you'll learn to do. Ease of use that you'll learn to do. And ease of dissolution. So whenever my tenant buyer eventually qualifies for a traditional mortgage, they go to the closing table with their money. They're now buying the property from the trust. The trust is the seller. The money comes into the title company. The title company pays off the underlying debt. The deed is transferred through the title closing from the trust to the new buyer. As soon as the deed leaves the trust goes away. It's easy to get rid of the trust because
So
you just
use
deed.
per property?
Yes, sir. I create a land trust for every single property that I have because it's so easy to do.
So, I don't know how many rentals and stuff, like manholes you have, but say you had 50 of those, would you have like 50 different beneficiaries?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It all depends on your strategy. But if you currently own all 50 of them, you can have your beneficiary as whoever, like your LLC. Your LLC is the owner of all of them. Yeah, your LLC is up at the bottom of the funnel. But each property is owned in a different trust.
Now, would you maintain all 50 trusts with the same trustee?
Yeah, I think that's-
Or would you kind of vary that?
It's up to you guys. It's wherever you're what I would do, I would say, y'all, I'll do all 50 of them for you. That's what I say I'm going to do. Yeah, that's what we do.
thank you for your honesty.
Absolutely. But I mean, if as long as it's someone you trust, why change? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So we created this trust as the Secretary of State?
I'm sorry.
Or we created this trust as the Secretary of
No, ma'am. You create the trust that's on your computer, and then once you get everything done and everything closed, which we'll show you how to do all that, facilitate the closing. It's not a traditional closing, guys. You're not going. They're not bringing in. Your buyer's not bringing in money because there is no buyer. The seller's just deeding you the property. And then so once you create the trust, the only thing you file is the affidavit of trust with the Caddo Parish Courthouse or Bossier Parish or whomever. Just a 5-page document.
So do we also have the option to have insurance on the trust like in the LLC?
Great question. Once the owner of the property changes from the owner of record to the trust, I would absolutely advise you to get your insurance renamed in the name of the trust. Foremost Mortgage If you do business with any conduit insurance companies that price out to several different underwriters, Foremost Insurance Trust. There's another company, REIG, Real Estate Investment Group, I think, and I'll have more information on that at the seminar. That they'll insure a trust all day long. But yeah, so you'll want to have the insurance changed over to the name of the trust. In case there's an incident, the insurance company will make a check out to the trust, which is you. Yes, sir.
As far as the process itself, time period, what's the time period when it comes to from the start to the end where everything is finalized?
Yeah, it all depends on how quickly you can get in front of your seller, explain the program to them, how quickly they want to close. One of the ones I talked about, Mr. Clarence on Southland Park, I saw his church or his sign in his yard for sale by owner one Sunday morning on the way to church. Called him that afternoon. I was in his living room Thursday, and we were closing on it the next Tuesday into a trust. Yes, sir.
Did I misunderstand you? Did you say the beneficiary of the trust cannot be the
Trustee?
or closely related to the
Yes, sir. That's the advisement that I've had, because a true trust is party A and party B for the benefit of party C. So if C is related to either A or B, it's not necessarily an arm's length transaction, so you really don't have a trust.
And how did you do your deals? Because you are the beneficiary and you are the guy running the trust.
I'm not the trustee of my properties. My company's not the trustee of my properties. I have another trustee.
You use someone else.
I use someone else. Exactly. You know, I could use my Surety Associates as my trustee and use my ownership LLC as my beneficiary, but to me that's too close of a relationship.
Why a spouse would be too close?
Pardon me?
A spouse would be too close?
Yes. In my opinion, again, you know, I would say ask an attorney, but a lot of attorneys don't understand the land trust. But if you go to an attorney that understands a trust, they can answer that question. Yes, sir. Guys, my advice: learn the land trust. Protect your properties. Preserve your retirement. Your income in your retirement, become a savant of the SubjectTo, add zero cost assets into your investment portfolio. Again, we have a live training event coming up Saturday, April the 6th. This is the price for the event. You can, the science of the SubjectTo transaction, will go through the large profits and lease to own, the power, privacy, and protection of the land trust. So basically 3 modules that we're going to fast track you through. In the past, this is what I've charged. There are people in this room that have paid more than that for this, and they're really going to be really mad at me here in a minute for I've done this for this Sabria group, guys, and there's another group that meets on Thursday nights. I'm giving it to them as well. So for this Sabria group, guys, if we get 15 people interested in this, it's worth me putting on a day-long event. If I don't get 15 people, I'm not going to do it for this price. So again, just decide if this is something you want to do or not, and we'll talk more about this now. But so instead of $59.85, 15 more attendees, I'm going to do it for $9.95. It's an all-day event. So for less than $1,000, guys, you can learn the power, protection, and privacy of the land trust, protect what you've worked for. You can learn an acquisition strategy that can literally make you over $100,000 a year. $9.95, guys, that's maybe 20% of one down payment on your first property. It is nothing. It is nothing as far as, it's a lot of money, but it's nothing as far as an investment into your business. And these are the type of properties that we do business in, guys. Halton, Wesso Circle, Southern Hills, McAdoo, Southern Hills, Southland Park, Southern Hills, Rounceville Court in Longview. Those 5 properties are the last 5 that I've done. They've made me $166,500. Every one of them are given to me, guys. Would I pay $9.95 to learn how to do this? Absolutely, I would. The cool stuff. This Corvette, the free stuff. Ryan, do you remember this Corvette?
Absolutely.
That was a fine ride, wasn't it?
That was the coolest kid.
So I had a tenant buyer in Texas, Ty. Ty lives off of a $6 million annuity his grandparents left him. He gets $5,000 a month at 23. When he turns 25, he gets $8,000 a month. They're living in this house, brand new house. You can tell by the garage. They wanted to buy a house I had in Marshall, 5 acres, sunken den, really nice house. He had the income to pay it. I wanted $20,000 down. He only had $15,000 down to give me. So I said, Ty, I'll tell you what, I'll take your 15 grand down. I'll take the title to that Corvette as credit for the other 5. He signed me the title to that Corvette, and I just gave him credit for $5,000. So I basically got that car for free. Drove it home. 1979, factory air, T-tops. He had just put $2,800 worth of tires and wheels in it. 286 stroker with headers. This is bad to the bone. Bad to the bone. This was left for me in a garage over in Southern Hills. 1982 Datsun 280ZX before Datsun became Nissan. Some mice had got in there and eaten up the upholstery and chewed through some wiring harnesses. So I think I sold it. This isn't the car, but it looked almost like that, not quite as good. I sold it for $1,200 online to a guy in Monroe that was rehabbing one of his. In that same garage was 375 horsepower Kawasaki dirt bikes in parts, but all of the parts made a whole. And also this CBR 600 was in there. 1996 version, so it was 20 years old, had 7,500 miles on it. Left it in the garage for me. These two 1989 Ford Broncos were left in the backyard of the house in Hallsville that I did. This one I sold for $1,250 to the junkyard. This one I spent $120 on a battery and a vacuum hose, aired the tires up, everything worked. I sold it for $3,250. The cool thing about that 89 Bronco is got the removable lid. That's a really cool. So those were left for me. Generated $4 or $5 grand worth of income that they left for me. I probably had 5 pool tables, 6 sets of washers and dryers, 3 refrigerators. People just leave stuff. My sweet mama's bedroom suit came from my house. You get all kind of free stuff on these deals. I love the freebies. Speaking of freebies at the event, guys, we're also going to give you the Ugly House formula for free. You can build a business on this formula on your rehabs. It teaches you what to spend, what to buy. On a rehab, you make your money when you buy. You collect your money when you sell. Using this formula, you can create an entire business model just on the Ugly House formula. How to write a simple, brief, professional business plan. I'll show you how to do that. You'll leave with a business plan in hand if you want to write a business plan and be able to more professionally represent your company. Reduce your current fixed rate by 3, 4, 5%. Banks do not want you to know this. If you know how to pay a loan off early, correctly, you will save so much money. It will blow your mind, and banks will not like you. Oh my goodness, it is, and it's so easy. It's so easy. And then finally, I'm going to give you a free copy of Think and Grow Rich, the condensed version that I have rewritten. Phenomenal book. Phenomenal book. It will change your life. Plus much, much more at the event. Testimonial. About a week ago, Brother Chevy had Brianna and her husband Corey. They were stuck on a deal. This particular mortgage company is known for not liking the title to transfer. They're known for calling loans due. And so they were talking to Chevy about it. Chevy said, you need to call Roger. So Bree, just real quickly, baby, you don't have to stand up. Just tell them what happened.
Into detail about how the process works, like when you couldn't get into LandTrust, that I'm very nervous. So just like
It's okay. It's okay.
but yeah, so we were very
We came in and saved the day, basically. Yeah, we basically.
I got to go out, Roger. So,
Thank you.
So they called me up and they was going through where the mortgage company was very, they check everything as far as when it comes to make sure that the loan is where it needs to be when it comes to the current loan holder. So knowing what I know as far as when it comes to dealing with Roger, he's a specialist when it comes to SubjectTo and LandTrust. I was like, you know what? You need to get with Roger because he's going to be able to structure it to where you or the seller don't have to worry about the bank calling the loan due, which is due on to sale clause. So once a SubjectTo deal goes through, a lot of times the bank at any time could call the loan due. So the way to avoid that is by opening up a LandTrust, and that's where my man Roger comes in play.
Thank you, guys. Guys, if you need help structuring this, our company can help you put it together. We can facilitate the closing. But the smart move, guys, make an investment in yourself, make an investment in your company, learn to do it yourself. If you decide to come to the event, once the event's over, I'm not done with you. You'll have unlimited email access to me. I will be with you until we close your first deal. Okay, every document all the way, because I want more testimonials. Okay, guys, hottest ticket in town, Saturday, April the 6th. I encourage you to come to this event if you can. We would absolutely love to have you. It's at Savoy's, the catering place. Gerald Savoy funded my very first rehab deal. He gave me 80 grand. 88 days later, I gave him back 87.5. Annualized, that's a 36% return on his money. And he's funded many deals for me, and now I use his services. He makes the best fried catfish, the best fried shrimp, broiled shrimp, baked fish, homemade. I know nobody's hungry. It's probably isn't a very good pitch right now. The timing's off. The best homemade tartar sauce ever. We'll provide 2 meals, breakfast and lunch, when you come to the event. Guys, what took me years and tens of thousands of dollars, you can learn in a day for less than $1,000. You have unlimited access to the author. I'll walk you through your first deal. And guys, that $9.95 is not a cost. It's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your business. For $995, you can learn how to get assets given to you for free. That's a pretty solid return on your money. It's tax deductible. Make sure with your CPA, because this is an educational event, it's fully tax deductible. Ryan, go ahead and pass out. Guys, if you there's some registration slips here if you want to go. Ryan's just going to pass them out table, sign, fill it out, turn it back in. Someone from the office will get a hold of you. You ain't got to pay tonight. Again, guys, you leave with every detail in your head, every document in your hand. We have who's got the manual, by the way? Yeah, the manual? Yeah, okay. It only made it that far? Thank you, Mr. Presley.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Presley.
I got it in the evening.
Guys, we're going to go through this manual, 67 pages, 9 pages of education, and then 59 pages of documents. You're also going to get a flash drive with all the documents on it, Word format, fillable. I'll walk you through each one, either at the event or after the event. When you get your first deal, give me a call. I'll walk you through it. Again, guys, it's a business in a box, delivered in a day. If you would like to come to the event, we've got 2.5 weeks before the event, $9.95. If you can come up with it before then, that's great. We'd love to have you. Guys, if you'd like to come to the event, but you're a little shy, if you can maybe only come up with $500 between now and then, get with me. We'll work something out. I don't want anybody to miss out on this thing just because you don't have the full $9.95. If we let you in for $500, how can you pay the other $4.95 is basically how the conversation will go. But we'll figure something out to get you in. Yes, sir.
What's your number again, Ron?
Sure. My cell phone number is 318-655-8928. 318-655-8928.
Roger,
Yes, sir.
just for clarity, let's say someone buys a ticket, and they've got a beautiful wife that they'd love to bring with them.
Comes for free.
All right, so it's a +1 for free?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and guys, I mean,
So if you had a business partner maybe?
yeah, you know, doing this for $9.95, man.
Yeah.
I'm giving it away, but I'm happy to do it because one of the rewards is teaching this is meeting Brianna and Corey, precious family, precious children. You know, they're just trying to get ahead in the world. You know, we make money when we do these deals, and that's a great reward. But the other reward, I still get a charge out of putting the deal together. I get a charge because I'm helping the seller out of a sticky situation. I get a charge because I'm helping my buyer become a homeowner. I get a reward because I'm helping people learn how to do this on their own. I mean, there's so many paydays in this business. That's why it's so emotional and so much fun. Yes, sir.
Beyond just the material, do you teach any marketing on how you market the
Yes, sir.
idea?
Yes, sir. Matter of fact, one of the first things that we cover at the seminar is in order for people to call you with houses for sale, guys, you just have to let them know you're in the house buying business. You have to have some kind of marketing strategy in mind. There's really no key phrase to get these sub-2 deals coming your way. If you have any kind of marketing, the deals are going to come your way. And I'm going to tell you what to look for. One of the first things we cover also, little to no equity. Usually if there's little to no equity, you're thinking, okay, I'm not going to make any money. I'm going to shove it to the side. Little to no equity is prime for a subject-to. So if you were going to create some marketing for this program, it would basically just be, I buy houses, I'll make your house payment, something like that. But whatever your marketing is, you're going to get these deals in. You just got to learn to be able to see them with the right pair of glasses. I mentioned this book, guys, Think and Grow Rich. 13 Steps to Riches. Step number 1 is desire. Step number 1 is desire. Desire is the first fruit of all action. We don't get what we want, we get what we desire. Brianna, before you head out, I have a gift for you and your husband, Corey. This is the free invitation, the free ticket to come to the seminar, okay? Huh? I got something for you, brother. Okay. Good, thank you. Bye, Bree. I got something for you, brother. Chevy gets a little referral fee. Not quite as generous. But hey, he set the price, didn't you? You set the price. Yeah, you set the price. So Think and Grow Rich, step one is desire. Desire is the first fruit of all action. We don't get what we want, we get what we desire. So desire is the first fruit of all action. Do you desire to build a business? Do you desire to learn how to do this? The second best book I ever read, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I don't recommend reading this. It's hard read, deep into psychology. There's a 73-minute audio version that is phenomenal. The best audio book I've ever heard. Step 1, highly effective people, be proactive. Guys, be proactive in everything that you do. Be proactive in signing up for this. Hottest ticket in town, guys. Take massive action now. We'd love to have you. Any questions, any final questions or concerns? If you want to come, guys, you don't quite have the $9.95. I'll work something out. If you do want to come, fill out the registration card, give it back to Ryan, and we will be in contact with you several times as the event draws near. Yes, ma'am. Okay, Saturday, April 6th, registration starts at 8 a.m. The event starts at 8:46 a.m. Ma'am, it says till 4, but we're not going to be there that long. But we will work through lunch so you guys can enjoy the free lunch. 8 to 4 is what it says on paper. Leave every document in your hand, every detail in your head. Unlimited access to me. I'll walk you through your first deal.
Any other questions?
Yeah, okay, yeah, thank you for reminding me. Okay, guys, even though it's $9.95, bring a +1, okay? I haven't decided yet, since I'm doing it so cheap, if I need to charge $75 extra for the +1 just to cover the cost of the room and the meal. But yeah, bring a +1, which is either your spouse, your business partner, your attorney, your CPA, whomever you want to bring, you get a free +1, okay? Yep. I have to know something, guys, by a week from tomorrow, 26.
That's very generous of you. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, guys.